Hey Reddit, I never thought the woman I loved, lived with, and planned to marry would be capable of lying to my face so convincingly that I didn't even realize my entire life had become one massive trap. But when I discovered her hidden Google search history, full of things like how to lie about your criminal past and how to manipulate someone who trusts you, my world snapped in half and everything I thought I knew about her evaporated instantly. And that's where the story begins. I met Sarah in 2019 in the tiny town of Maple Ridge, Ohio, a place so quiet that the loudest noise on most days was the church bell and the gossip outside the post office, and I swear that first day felt like something out of a corny rom-com. She spilled a latte on me at Bean and Brew, apologized in this warm, flustered way, and before I knew it, we were talking like we'd known each other for years. I was 28, a mechanic who barely left town, and she was this confident, magnetic woman who said she'd moved to Maple Ridge for a fresh start. Within weeks, we were inseparable, taking late-night walks by the river, sitting in my old truck eating takeout dinners, and talking about dreams, family, and future plans. Within months, she moved into my apartment on Pine Street, adding candles, framed pictures, throw blankets, turning my bachelor mess into something that actually felt like home. Everyone called me lucky, and for a long time I believed them because she acted like the perfect partner, cooking meals after work, greeting me at the door with a smile, bragging about me to her co-workers, and planning our future with this infectious optimism that made me feel like I'd finally found something real. But slowly, cracks formed so faint at first that I told myself I was imagining things. She would step outside to answer late-night calls and say it was just work, though her office supposedly didn't call after hours. She started getting tense whenever I walked behind her while she was on her phone. She'd come home anxious but claim she was just tired. My best friend Mike overheard her at the grocery store telling someone, "He's clueless, he'll never figure it out," and when he asked her what she meant, she brushed it off as a joke about someone else's husband. Things escalated when we started house hunting. We found a cozy 2-bedroom cottage on Maple Hill Road that felt perfect: big backyard, cedar porch, maple trees lining the driveway. And she acted excited until she got off a phone call with the listing agent. Suddenly, she claimed there were serious red flags, foreclosure issues, hidden problems. The agent had told me none of that. She said her gym friends warned her yet refused to let me speak to them. My gut twisted, but I kept silent. The night everything changed, she canceled dinner plans at the last minute, saying she had a family emergency, and an hour later her phone buzzed with a message from someone saved as G. When I walked in, she slammed the phone face down. That was the moment I knew something was deeply wrong. Later, while she slept, I did something I'd never done before. I checked her phone, and what I found shattered the entire illusion. She had a hidden browser with searches like how to hide criminal history, how to cover up financial fraud, how to manipulate someone who trusts too easily, and how to keep a partner from discovering your past. My blood ran cold. The worst part was the messages to G, who I soon learned was actually Greg. "Don't tell him anything. If he finds out, it'll ruin everything. He's too trusting and we need to stay ahead of this." I felt physically sick reading them. The next morning when I confronted her, she went pale, then angry, then tearful, cycling through fake emotions like she'd rehearsed them. She claimed Greg was someone who was blackmailing her, someone from her old life, someone she owed money to, but nothing matched the tone of the messages. For the next few weeks, I pretended to believe her while keeping an eye on everything she did. And that's when her perfect facade completely fell apart. Her late work shifts increased. She took calls in the bathroom with the faucet running. She hid papers in her bag. She locked her phone with a code she changed weekly. And every time I asked even a simple question, she became defensive, irritated, sometimes outright hostile. One evening while doing my taxes, I found a bank statement tied to an account I didn't recognize with a massive $50,000 withdrawal under her name. I dug deeper and uncovered more transfers. Some small, some huge, all funneled into accounts associated with Greg Miller. My heart dropped. Sarah wasn't being blackmailed. She was in an embezzlement scheme with Greg, siphoning money from her job at an accounting firm. I found emails she'd hidden, client information she had no reason to access, and messages discussing ways to delay the audit and redirect the funds. She had moved to Maple Ridge not for a fresh start, but to hide from another investigation. She'd changed her last name months before we met. When I confronted her again, she didn't deny it. Instead, she spiraled, crying, pacing, begging me to help her hide it, saying she did it for us so we could have a better life, saying Greg forced her, saying she never meant to drag me into this, but her desperation wasn't guilt, it was fear of losing her cover story. She even tried to convince me to marry her immediately so she could feel secure. The moment she said that, I realized she wasn't trying to protect me. She was trying to tether me legally to her mess. I packed my bags and left the apartment that night, taking copies of every file and sending them anonymously to her company. A few days later, when I stopped by to grab the rest of my things, she was sitting on the couch holding a letter from her employer, crying, surrounded by printed emails and account statements screaming that I ruined her life. She went from sobbing to screaming in a heartbeat, blaming me, Greg, her boss, the clients, everyone except herself. Weeks later, news broke that Sarah and Greg had been arrested for embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from elderly clients. Maple Ridge lit up with gossip, and for a while I felt humiliated, tricked, like my entire life had been a lie. But then I realized I was lucky if I hadn't seen those messages. If I had married her, if I had ignored my doubts, I would have been dragged into a crime that could have destroyed my life. I moved to a nearby town, rebuilt my routine, and slowly learned to trust my instincts again. And now whenever I think back on it, I'm grateful that a cup of spilled coffee led me to the truth, even if it took the long, painful way to get there. If you like this story, please like and subscribe for more.